Hi everybody, my name's Raquel Skellington. I have been LARPing for 10 years, 5 years as just a regular LARPer and 5 years as a professional. And today we're going to be talking about romance in LARP. Ooh la la, romance roleplay. Ooh. I know the concept of like doing romance roleplay in LARP is in some ways really contested on like how safe it is and like how people go about doing it. What I want to do today and like my aim and goal for this video is to give you guys an idea of what romance roleplay is, how to do it safely, and how to know your own boundaries. You know, I think romance roleplay in LARP is an essential storytelling element, and therefore I think it's really important to know how to do it safely, because great stories are told about love and loss and betrayal and affairs and, you know, unrequited love, true love, you know, you name it, star-crossed lovers. There are tons and tons of stories out there that feature all sorts of these themes, and I think it's a shame that a lot of the US community is really afraid to kind of like go into it, but it's not without justified reason. Which brings me to the very first thing that I wanted to talk about. And I'm gonna say this very frankly, I'm gonna say this very honestly. LARP is not your dating pool. It's not your dating pool. Don't go to LARP to find a date. That's like doing theater and like going on stage to get a date. Like it's first off super lame and it's super creepy and it's honestly really gross and it will make others feel unsafe. So first off, that has to get out of the way. Everything about romance roleplay is about consent. It desperately hinges and cannot be done without it. So if you're already going into it with like weird off-game intentions, that's no good. So these are some things to keep in mind, that like when you're doing romance roleplay, it needs to come from an honest place. I approach LARP as a storytelling, artistic like expression. So for me, it's about like living these stories that I really enjoy. What you guys can't see is that like right behind you, I have a bookshelf and it is filled with a bunch of romance novels. And so I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that like I'm a little bit of a hopeless romantic and I love stories about romance and unrequited love and true love and star-crossed lovers, you name it, I simp. And, you know, I think that for me, I like playing out these stories in LARP. I just want it, and I want to be able to do them safely. You know, when I went to Fairweather Manor, I was also in a relationship, and when I went the first time, which I have the video series about here, and I fell in love with an artist, and we also shared a kiss, and I was in a relationship, and like, you know, nothing went about went past the boundaries that, you know, we said, and it was fine, regardless if my partner was an abusive piece of shit or not. It's just like romance is just another storytelling element. Just like we have, you know, we use violence in LARP, torture, all sorts of these kinds of things, and motives for storytelling or reasons for storytelling. You know, I see no difference in using this as a different way to tell a meaningful story. I mean, what are we gonna act like people don't fall in love? That a lot of conflicts, even wars, are fought for love? Yeah, some of the greatest stories in history are about love and betrayal and all of these things. So to not like play on it in a game, or for me to not like have it as a story element, is like, I don't know, I can't see myself playing on without it, frankly. I think what's important to remember too about, you know, romance is like, I would go into it thinking about like, what is this character like, what is this gonna do for your character? Like, what development will this have for the story you're telling with this character? Like, you know, Odette being a barmaid and her having all these suitors chase after her makes sense, but I'm not gonna spoil it because I'm also making a video about the last 2 episodes of Malleus. But, you know, through an unrequited romance, perhaps romance can be found. That's all I'm gonna say. And I think, you know, going on the topic of like unrequited love, I think, oh boy, you know, unrequited love is it can be a very difficult thing to pull off in LARP. Again, as with everything that I've said so far, it harkens back to communication. It's all about communication. You need to talk to the person that you want to do that with, and you have to be very clear about what that means. And, you know, I have had issues with this as well, like not on the giving end but on the receiving end. Like I've had people be like, yeah, I want to do an unrequited romance with your character, but in reality that was just like an excuse for them to be like creepy and follow me around all the time, or like stalk me, or like just be generally just fucking weird and creepy. And it's unfortunate that, you know, that was the case. You know, maybe they didn't feel like, I don't know, they knew how to depict it. I don't know, even if I give them the benefit of the doubt, right? So like unrequited love and like those kind of narratives in romance roleplay is like, you have to know what you're trying to do with this. You need to know what goals you're trying, like, do you want the character to be rejected and like use as a motivation to either change or I don't know, fall into a villain arc? I don't know. Like, you need to like kind of figure out where that narrative through line will go. And like, I'm not saying you gotta plan it out to a T, but like, it's gotta mean something to your character rather than just like, yeah, my character is just like into this person. Okay, but like, why? Why? Is it because you off game are into that person? Because if that's the case, that's creepy. If the character is into this person because, or the character's into that character because, oh, you know, they were saved in battle once and, you know, they forever were thankful and like fell in love with them over time. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, you need to have a narrative through line. I would then recommend, you know, going to that LARPer and just saying it straight up, being like, hey, so my character is X, Y, and Z, and I would really be interested in perhaps doing a required romance. And it's up to that person to be like, yay or nay. If they say nay, that's it. Don't press it. Drop it. Let the thread go. They don't want to do it. That's no. That's a no. No means no. If they say yes, then like, congratulations. Then you guys can discuss what required love actually means. For some, and in some narratives, it's just like getting love letters from a secret admirer. Sometimes it could be, you know, a friend getting jealous of another, like, I don't know. You guys think about any story involving like unrequited romance and love. Like, you know, like one of my characters right now is kind of trapped in like, I don't know, like a romance pentagon. And one of the characters has fallen to the dark side. And it was never really clear whether, you know, she liked him or not. And then now that he's gone, all of a sudden she's like, well, maybe I miss him? Uh-oh. What? And so like this unrequited love is maybe now, well, maybe I did see something in him, but I just didn't know what it was, you know? But it was up to me. That's up to me if I want to develop it that way. That's, you know, and that's like a conversation. Like, role-playing in LARP is really just about like keeping up communications. Like when I am doing stuff with people, even when I'm off game, I don't like to plan scenes off game, but if I'm going to like a reoccurring game like Malleus or whatnot, I make sure to take the time in between events and whatnot to talk to the people that I'm role-playing with and be like, hey, you know, this was good, this, that, and the other. Some people will check in with me and be like, hey, are you cool with how this is going? This is an idea I had for my character and like a scene that we could do, or like, you know, a way that my character could express this. And I'll be like, yay or nay. And, you know, usually it's a good sign. Normally people just check in. So like if they have the awareness to do that, like that's already more than most. But, and this is the thing, guys, okay? Like, I'm not here to shame any past mistakes people have made, or if you have done romance roleplay before and you're like, it's just not for me, I'm not here to tell you that it's for you. What I am saying is that we can't ignore the fact that there are people that want to do this. Like, we can't ignore the fact that there are people who love these narrative through lines. And so really what this is about is giving people the tools to do it safely. It's about giving the people the tools and the agency to establish their boundaries, know what they're cool with, and then play on that. You know, everything is about consent. Role play is about consent. I kind of want to go into, you know, people ask me all the time. They're like, well, you know, you've been in a relationship, and I have. At this point, I've been with my partner for 3 years, and we've done romance roleplay like that whole time. I have done romance roleplay while I was single, while I was in an open relationship, while I was in a closed monogamous relationship, and how you navigate it as a couple might be different than how you would navigate it by yourself alone. Right away, I would say that you need to talk to your partner about like what romance roleplay means between the two of you. That has to be an honest conversation. Like, you guys have to be willing to make compromises with each other and to talk about, like, you know, the realities of doing romance roleplay. I will say that, at least for me personally, I have a really hard time of doing romances with people that, like, I don't have chemistry with. And, like, let's be real, chemistry, even for actors, whatever, chemistry is basically just like how much you find somebody attractive or how much you kind of vibe with them in like a realistic sense. And it's the same kind of thing in LARP, at least for me. Other people can, you know, feel whatever way they feel about that. They don't have to do something with somebody that they find attractive or have chemistry with. But at least in my for me, like literally me personally, that is something that like matters to me. I have to have a good vibe, a good read, and a lot of chemistry with the person that I do it with. I have to feel safe with them. I have to know that I can trust them. And usually the people I end up doing romance with are like friends off game, and like people that I've known for a long time, like LARPers that I've known for like a while. And the thing is like when you're having this conversation about, you know, well, what are you okay with? What are we not okay with? What is the limitations of us depicting a romance at a LARP? You know, there are some couples that say like they're cool with everything under the sun, including like real like intimacy and like real sex. There are people who are cool with only, you know, kissing and whatnot. You know, my general rule is that like it should be serviceable to the story. You know, you should, and that goes both ways. It should be, you know, serviceable to the story. It should make sense for like what's going on with the character. Like for Odette, you know, Odette has a lot of romantic interests and, you know, required loves, and like there is a lot of like romance role play around that. But, you know, I've made it really clear on my like character boundary sheet, which I'll like show over here, like what I'm cool with, like being role played with, and how to be touched and whatnot. And I think those are some really, really great conversations that if you are in a relationship, whether open or close, that you should have with your partner or partners. It's really important that everybody feels like they're on the same page when going into something like this. And like, again, most LARPs in America don't even like depict like sex in LARP like as something you can see on screen, like in the game. Most of it is, you know, off screen, like, you know, you go behind a wall, or you go inside a tent or a room and you make like illicit noises and jump on the bed or something. Like it's usually off screen in that way. So, you know, until there's a LARP in the US where like those themes are more prevalent and common and like that actually can be depicted, it really shouldn't be even something that we come across here. But hey, if you go overseas and there is a LARP where, you know, sexual scenes are depicted, you guys need to understand your boundaries around that. You need to have real conversations about that, you know? I think, like I said, you know, I've been in this relationship for 3 years, and really it's just about honesty, guys. Like, if you're going into it and you're like, yeah, you know, I'm cool with like everything up to like PG-13, and then define what PG-13 means for you guys. On the flip side, was a little bit different when I was single. I wasn't, you know, so worried. Like, if the other person was in a relationship, it would need to be a conversation of like, hey, what are the boundaries that you have and the boundaries that you've set with your partner? And, you know, please trust that like I will not go and violate any of those. And if anything is too much, or I come on too strong, or the scene isn't going where you want between our characters, just like, please, like, you know, please signal me, like, let me know and we'll calibrate. There have been even times where, just to like double check, because back in the day, you know, I feel like there was like a major cultural shift around this as well after like Me Too really started to become a thing here in the United States, where, you know, it was all about making sure that nobody was making anybody uncomfortable, that, you know, these creepy actions, or, you know, these creepy guys, or these predatory guys or women, or they thems, weren't getting away with doing this underhanded kind of business through romance role play. And there was a major crackdown on that across the United States from what I remember. You know, and a lot of communities and games fell apart due to people having to be booed out. So, you know, when going into it single, I mean, again, this is about also understanding your own boundaries. You know, don't go to LARP to try and get a date. That's not the point. Like, I get it. LARP is, and listen, I get it. LARP is sexy. It is. It's sexy. It can be very sexy. And, you know, nerds can be horny. It's fine. It happens. It's just about, again, remaining honest to yourself and to the person that you're role-playing with, and talking about what's going on. And listen, guys, it's also okay to, like, acknowledge that maybe through role-playing this fake relationship, you got feelings for somebody. You know, like, maybe you feel some type of way. And that should be discussed. And I think as long as all communication channels are open and all parties remain consenting and want to work something out, or they want to pull back, it is just a conversation. And, you know, we're all grown. And if you're attending a LARP, you know, usually you're 18 and up, or, you know, even 21 and up in some cases for some LARPs. And it is really, really important that, you know, consent every step of the way, guys. Just consent. How you set your boundaries is also, you know, up to you. You can be like, hey, you know, let's say you're playing a lady of the night, right? Let's say you're playing a prostitute, and you're like, okay, you know, I'm cool with you know, grabbing my waist, or, you know, placing a kiss on my hand. But like, if you want to kiss anywhere else, like, that's something that needs to be pre-negotiated before the game starts, or we need to take time during the game to discuss, like, something like that. And then you can even say, okay, once you want to be my client, this is what happens off screen. And I think, you know, it's just, again, establishing honest boundaries and honest expectations. You know, it's no different than acting, really. When we see, you know, sex in a movie, when we see sex on stage at a play, or we see romances depicted in plays or in movies, you know, nobody assumes that those two actors, those two performers are dating. Sometimes they are, and that's fine. But, like, most of the time, generally, no, they're not. They're here to play this role and get their paycheck and go home. Like, that's usually what's up, you know? And it's okay for that to be all it is, guys. Like, it's okay to just be like, yeah, our characters kissed. Like, when I was at Villa Historia, which there will be a video coming out about that soon, my character had kind of fallen for the champion gladiator. And so it was like, at the end of the LARP, there was chaos breaking out, people were getting stabbed, it was crazy, right? It was totally crazy. And in the heat of passion in the moment, she runs to where he was in, like, the gladiator fighting area. And she's like, this may be our only chance for escape. And they kiss. And it was dramatic. And da-da-da-da-da-da. And, like, it was just, there was even a moment where, like, I asked, like, is it okay for my character to kiss you in this moment? Which, like, he said yes. We kissed for a brief moment. And, like, that's it. You know, that's it. That's all it needs to be. And even the night before, I had asked his consent of, like, hey, my character's supposed to be into gladiators. Like, would you be okay with my character being into yours? And he was like, yeah, no, that's totally fine. I'm up for that. I'm like, listen, if you want to adjust anything, or you want me to pull back, you know, whatever, if you have any questions, just, like, feel free to, like, pull me aside and we can break and talk about it. And that's honestly, realistically, how it should be handled all the time. I guess we can, like, go into talking about, like, physical intimacy. in romance role plays. Now this is, I do have a part 1 of my video about like adult themes in LARPs, which I guess I'll put here and you'll have linked down below. I am working on part 2. It's just life got busy. I moved, they moved, like, you know, me and Ray just have had to keep pushing back when we can film it. But like, the thing is, you know, we're going to be doing a part 2 in which we talk about more of like the X-rated or like dubious content kind of stuff. I do not consider what I'm talking about right now to be in that realm. The kind of physical intimacy I'm going to be speaking about here is like PG or like G, PG, and like PG-13 at most. At absolute most, you know, and it also depends on the LARP's maturity rating. Like what I would do at Malleus is not the same I would do at like a small like boffer LARP, you know, like if the game is meant for all audiences, like there's families there, the way I would depict romance is not the same as how I depict it where, you know, there's explicit themes around it or like it's a major part of the game, you know, like Giovanni the Last Supper has a lot of rules about like intimacy and whatnot and like role play and like nobody can be naked. Can't be naked. So it's like you can do all sorts of romance role play you want, but you can't be naked. And there are some games where it's like, hey, any person of any gender can have their top off and out, you know, and there are even games where like, yes, you can have your top off, but nothing that resembles real sex can happen. Like actually that would be the night in question where people can be removing their tops, but like any type of relationship intimacy or sexual intimacy is not at all supposed to be depicted on screen. That is something that you're supposed to go off screen and it needs to be like so obviously fake. Like they even say in the workshops, like make it look fake. It should not resemble anything close to like any type of real intimacy. Period. Like make it camp, okay? Like over exaggerate, like make it ridiculous, which I think is that's a pretty fair ask, you know, to keep people comfortable. You know, also America has like a weird repression thing about how they feel about like actual physical intimacy depicted in LARPs and like it's a lot to work through and there is justified reason as to why, you know, I'm not gonna get into it, but like, all that matters is that whatever level of intimacy you're depicting, it needs to be okay and like legal within the realm of the game that you're playing. Every LARP is different. No LARP is not standard. So what is okay to be depicted at one LARP may not be okay to be depicted at other. One way to roleplay romance at one LARP may not be okay at another. It's really important that you guys read your rule books. It's really important that you ask staff these questions so that at no time are you transgressing the game's boundaries or anyone else's by that, whether, you know, unintentionally or not. Depicting like physical intimacy, like for instance, is like, when I do a kiss at a LARP, I'm not like making out with this person. I'm not like Frenching them or anything like that. It's like a stage kiss basically. And a stage kiss is just basically like, you know, lips only, no tongue, basically no open mouth. It's all about your personal boundaries and it's on you to know your personal boundaries. And if you know you're not okay with something, don't push through it, you know? I would say get really comfortable with knowing yourself and your boundaries, knowing, you know, what you're chill with, what feels comfortable for you, and then go from there. You know, that's the only way you're gonna be able to navigate this safely because we're a lot of people who, and like, I'm a survivor myself, and, you know, I had a long time to like try and get back into doing romance at LARPs because of like what happened to me in my past and suffering from PTSD. There are people that do not like these themes. There are people who are aromantic, but like basically if a LARP allows for the thing, okay, check in with the people you're gonna do that with, you know? I don't even mind if somebody comes up to me at a game and like briefly breaks character and is like, hey, I was really interested in doing X, Y, and Z with your character. Would you be down for that to be like, you know what I mean? Like in the middle of the game, like going off in a corner somewhere and just like negotiating that real quick. I'd rather that happen than somebody try and do something and then like it come off inappropriately, you know? I think, you know, and as I've talked about in my What is LARP video, there are also different types of consent mechanics around this kind of intimacy. Like at the night in question, you cross your fingers like this and you go, hi, well, you don't say, well, you can say hi, but you're negotiation intimacy. And if the person says negotiate intimacy, that means like, okay, like I'm willing to hear your bid, continue. And then, you know, negotiate intimacy, would it be cool if my character flirted with you? And it's like, yay or nay. You know, if you go, you know, negotiate intimacy and they go, no, that's it. Nope. Sorry. Like, that's it. No retaliation. And if there is any, it's supposed to be reported to staff. That's how Jackalope does it. You know, there are other systems like the thumbs up, thumbs down, wiggly hand system, also red light, green light, yellow light, where it's like, you can say green to somebody if you're cool with how a scene's going, just like slip it into how you're role playing. You could be like, oh, so-and-so, yada da 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 green. And they will know that like you're good or to continue, you know, let's say they're getting a little close to you and like, while you're kind of down with like what's happening narratively in the scene, that type of physical closeness is too much for you. You'd be like, yellow. And then they'll like back off, you know? And red would make the scene stop immediately. Like it would just be like, nope, done, whatever. And that's the thing. Like I said, LARP isn't standard, so you would have to see the systems that they use. And there's even been times where, you know, at games where people will check in and just be like, hey, was that too much? Like, or, hey, you know, I know you were cool. You said you were cool with that scene earlier. Like, was that actually cool? And it was like, yeah. You know, my biggest thing to those who are who are receiving romance roleplay too from the person that is pursuing them, please, God, be honest. Please be honest. You need to be honest. You have to be honest about what makes you uncomfortable and what you're okay with, because trying to spare somebody's feelings while you're making yourself uncomfortable is not the goal. It is not the goal. That is not the game. That is not the mood. So I don't care if you're a king, queen, or incorporeal being. Do not do that. I know on the receiving end, the rejection can hurt in that moment, but just know that hey, it doesn't have to be a big thing, okay? Like when somebody needs to readjust or they say no or whatever, I get it. I get it. It could be a little bit of a blow to like the ego, even off game, where it's like, damn, like I wanted to do that. And they were like, nah. And it's okay though, like this, that, and the other. When like for instance, I'll give you an example. In 2019, it was the end of season 1 of Damarung, and my character was a princess, and my best friend was going to come in and play my daughter, and I wanted a dad for her, and so I went around and I was asking players like, hey, would you be interested with the romance of my character? Some were like, oh no, like I already have one, or hey, I'm not interested in that kind of roleplay at this time. Or there was even one where like we had started like doing some type of like flirtatious romance roleplay in character, and then, you know, he let me know halfway through like, hey, I'm sorry, like I thought I would kind of be comfortable with this, but like I'm feeling like weird about it, so I'm just gonna say no. And I was like, yeah, man, no problem. You know, did I do anything to make you feel uncomfortable? I was like, no. I just like, it's just not for me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no problem. And like in the moment, it's like, damn, like that stinks, but you move on. And moving on led me to find my current partner. And listen, I know, I just said, and I've said it like 40 times in this video, do not use LARP as your dating pool. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and be the arbiter of your destiny and tell you what you can and can't do. There are times where genuinely, there are people who get together through LARP. Like LARP brings people together. And so like, it is okay that if you develop feelings for somebody while role-playing with them in character, and they develop feelings for you, and you two talk about it, and you decide you want to date, congratulations. You have a partner, that's on you. Like, that's freaking awesome. I wish you the best, you know? When I was preparing, because like, I'm talking about a new in Prince Bowden, played by my current partner. Well, Bowden is died of old age, but rest in peace. You know, we started to talk off game. Like, we did nothing in game. It was kind of the acknowledgement of like, hey, do we actually want to do this going into season 2? And obviously this was like before the pandemic. And he was like, yeah, no, like I'm totally cool with this. I haven't really done a romance like this before. I was like, listen, we'll go at your pace. Like, I don't want to make you feel like, you know, we're just going to be husband and wife. I'm not really here to have like a romance plot around this. We're just going to be like a comfortable family with like a daughter and a kid, like we're just gonna be husband and wife. Which he was like, yeah, no, I'm totally down with that. And so, you know, there would be a massive break between the next game. And so in the between time till the next game, you know, we started to talk to each other off game and, you know, get to know each other. I was like, well, I figured we should like get to know each other a little bit if we're gonna play house for like the next year or so. So we started hanging out and we started talking, and, you know, the player of my daughter, Haldora is her name, in game, not IRL, but the player of Haldora, you know, she got to know him because like, hey, we're all gonna be a family, so we should kind of like get to know each other and figure out our vibe and like how we're gonna balance off each other and like how we all role play and like what our style's like. And through that process, we developed feelings for each other, and it was really funny because of the pandemonium, we actually didn't end up playing the roles we had met over until over a year later. And by that time we were well into dating. And so it's just kind of funny how those things work. And if that happens to you guys, you know, good on you, power to you, you know, God bless. But it's just about the intention. You know, I wasn't going into it I was single, you know, I wasn't trying to go into it trying to find a partner. I was like, no, my character wants a partner, so I need to get one for her. And that was it. That was as deep as it freaking went. And that's really all it should be in appropriate context. But you know what? If you end up clicking with that player off game and you guys develop a relationship, that's great. I'm really happy for you. But it's just, do not go into it with that being your goal. And there will be times where that will not happen. Most of the time it doesn't happen. You know, I've done plenty of romances around the world, and it's just like actors at the end of a show. Like, it doesn't mean that I'm in love with them. It's just like, yeah, that was a really great scene. Like, thank you so much. And like I said, that's all it should be. That's all it should be, unless you guys talk about wanting something more in or off game. Like, it's just like, hey, yeah, that was really cool. Thank you so much for playing on for that for me, and like yada yada. I really like that development, you know, this, that, and the other. You know, and listen, there are plenty of couples that role play together in game. You know, after dating, it was my first time actually role playing with my partner in game as a romantic interest. So it was just like, it was kind of cute because like it was a way that we could kind of not like, I think it's a little dramatic saying test drive being like, you know, a long-term relationship or family, because like it's still not reality, but like, you know, we were husband and wife and he was a doting husband. And in season 2 I got pregnant in game. I got pregnant with a fake belly in game, and you know, we got to explore being husband and wife and being a mom and dad to like a late teens child and what that meant for us. And it's gonna be really funny, you know, because I'm in my mid-20s now, I'm 26 years old, and it's gonna be really funny going back and thinking about like how I depicted what I saw to be a mid-30s woman and a mid-30s mom. Like, when I'm a mid-30s mom, am I gonna think I did a good job like right now? Probably not. We'll never know. We'll have to find out. Well, you know, maybe on this channel 10 years from now, we'll have the answer, but we don't know. You know, and I think that's kind of what's really fun about doing romances in LARPs, is that it's kind of a cute way to live through milestones that maybe you actually don't want, like having a kid or getting married. Like, I've been fake married before. There's a video about it on my channel. It was really cool. And you know what it taught me? Weddings are exhausting. Oh my God. Exhausting. And also that I cry like a baby. I cry like a little baby. And I'm probably gonna cry like a little baby when I get married IRL too. You know, I learned very interesting things about like walking down the aisle in a wedding dress and like what I would, when I do hopefully one day get married, what I would want to do that I experienced in LARP. Like, it's kind of cool that I've had that experience. And there's plenty of characters that have gotten married in Damarung. There's plenty of characters that get married in all sorts of LARPs. And it's just an in-game thing. I have seen it at LARPs where it's also an out-of-game thing, which is super freaking wholesome. But again, that is up to the players and, you know, the games and the boundaries set within the games and by the players. it all kind of comes back to that, you know? At the end of the day, you guys just need to be talking to each other. There's also a lot of good articles online that talk about romance and the bleed around romance, you know? I think something that's super interesting too is, like falling in love with the man that never was, or falling in love with the woman that never was, or falling in love with the them that never was. It's like, just remember too that in those moments when you're depicting this romance, right, and you're living either your cheesiest romance fantasy or your gothic romance fantasy, whatever it is, okay, that those feelings in those moments can feel real. It can feel powerful. And then it's like when the LARP is over, it's like, oh yeah, that guy doesn't exist. That person doesn't exist. They're not real. They're not me. They're not you. It's just a character you're playing. And there have been times where, like, you know, yeah, you can totally develop a crush on a LARP character. I mean, they're played by real people, and, you know, it's just like you can develop a crush on a character in a TV show. You may not actually be into the actor, but you're into the character. It's like the same psychological vibe. I'm not a therapist, but, like, it's the same, yeah, it's the same kind of thing, you know, phenomenon. So, you know, I think about, like, on that kind of bleed, it's always important to ground yourself. You know, it's important to ground yourself. And sometimes I think what's really interesting is that, like, let's say you're in a relationship or whatever, and you're vibing with this romance, right, that you're having with, like, a different person in the game. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, I want this in my actual life, you know? I'm feeling this, I'm fulfilling this want or this unmet need through this role play that I want fulfilled in real life. You know what that is? That's a conversation to have with your partner. That is a conversation to have with your partner. And that is also a conversation you're probably gonna need to have as well at some point if it gets to some type of level or some type of way, not only with your partner, but maybe the other person involved. And maybe, depending on the boundaries of your relationship, go away from that or lean into that. You know, again, as long as you're not breaking the set boundaries of your relationship, whatever, don't make it weird. Really, I'm just here to, like, tell you not to make it weird. I think the stories that can be told with romance and have been told with romance can be so beautiful, so tragic, and very, very fun and rewarding to play through. Just be honest about why, you know? For some, it's really just about telling the story. It's about the art and the narratives that they want to tell through these characters. For some, it's, you know, to invoke feelings of wrath and create conflict, you know? And for some, it's like, I think, you know, LARP isn't therapy, but it is therapeutic. And for some, it can be about reopening themselves in a pretend space to intimacy that they're afraid of in the real world, of touch or even emotional intimacy that they're afraid of in the real world. Because in LARP, nothing's real. It's all pretend. So there's no commitment. You can play on things that in real life you wouldn't want to, but in the game, it's fun, or you can feel safe doing so or exploring those parts of yourself willingly, you know? I think I talked about this in my adult themes in LARPing, but like, one of the steps of me finding out that I was bisexual, even though, like, I kind of already knew that I was, but I was kind of in self-denial about it, but, like, my aha moment was playing a lesbian android at Project Ascension in New York City. Like, I all of a sudden was playing this, like, gay robot, and I was like, huh, maybe I do like girls. And that is a perfectly valid way to, like, find out about your sexuality. There are plenty of people who, you know, have figured out that maybe they're not straight, maybe they're bi. There's plenty of men that have figured out that maybe they're bi, maybe they're pansexual, because I think the freedom to just explore without commitment, because again, it's not real, allows people to embrace things that they've wanted to try or things that they want to explore on a level that makes them feel safe, safely. And that can help them figure out things about themselves, or it could just be a storytelling element. It depends person to person. It doesn't always have to be that deep. You know, I do believe that LARP is like our characters in LARP, right? We're always pulling from ourselves to play our characters. You know, at the end of the day, I'm still me, right? I'm still playing Raquel is playing the character. So the capacity for all of these things are within you if you're role playing them, technically. Like, you can do the thing that you're role playing. If you're role playing being sociable, you can be sociable. Like, it means that you actually have the physical capacity in order to do so. Like, it's just a trick to get your mind to believe you're somewhere else doing something else as someone else when it's still you in like the meta context. So that's like big brain stuff though. There's like LARP academics who have full-on like conversations and conferences about this stuff. I'm not claiming to be a LARP academic. I'm not claiming to know everything. I'm just telling you like what I have felt as a professional and like what I have felt doing this for 10 years. Like, there are safe ways to do this. You know, it's just about communication. What a surprise. Wow. So with that, I think that's kind of all the things I wanted to touch on and like discuss about romance roleplay and like my thoughts and feelings on it, how you guys can do it safely and honestly. You know, I hope this video gave you guys a better insight on how to treat your fellow player and how to also make sure that you're taking care of yourself in navigating these kind of themes. And yeah, as you can see, you know, I'm starting to get the hang of maybe filming in my new space. I'm hoping that my video quality will only go up from here. And there's a lot of videos on the docket right now. I have a massive backlog, so hopefully over the course of this winter, there will be way more frequent uploads for that. Which, speaking on making more frequent uploads, if you would like to help me and this channel grow and have higher production values and be able to do more creative type of videos about LARP and LARP adjacent things, I now have a Ko-Fi subscription service. So you guys can support me, support the channel, and you guys can go over there and see what tier you would like if you're interested in supporting and helping me out. Any of your help is absolutely appreciated, and I would be so thankful. But yeah, I think that's everything that I have for you guys now. Probably when I post this, it's gonna be well into the holiday. So I hope everybody has a happy, safe, and wonderful holiday. And I'll see you guys in the new year, okay? Like I said, take it easy and happy LARPing.